The 2024 presidential race to power in the United States is witnessing twists and turns. Republican poster boy and front-runner Donald Trump goes to trial again. The former U.S. president is facing accusations of inciting the Capitol Hill riots in January 2021. And the burning question at this hour is, will Donald Trump be disqualified from the presidential race? Now, the trial, which began on Monday in Denver, Colorado, will determine whether Trump is disqualified from the state's ballot in the 2024 election.
6 Colorado voters, 4 Republicans and 2 independents, brought this case to ensure Colorado has a fair election among eligible candidates. Trump incited a violent mob to attack our Capitol, to stop the peaceful transfer of power under our Constitution. That mob got within 40 feet of Vice President Pence after they chased him from the Senate floor. That mob tried to hurt and kill our elected leaders. And we are here because Trump claims, after all that, he has the right to be president again.
However, the former U.S. president and current front-running presidential candidate from the Republican camp has categorically denied any involvement in triggering the January 6 riots at Capitol Hill 2 years ago.
But there are millions of people in Colorado and across this country who are inspired by President Trump, who view him as someone who protects their interests and who are going to and is going to create a nation, help build a nation that they want to live in and that they want their children to live in. Millions of people look to him for hope and inspiration. And who are the petitioners to prevent those people from not being able to vote on that? Who are they?
Now, this is not an isolated case that Trump faces with regard to the riots. Similar lawsuits have also been filed by advocacy groups in Michigan and Minnesota. But the case in Colorado is the first to go on trial. And the common ground in all of these cases is the rarely used 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. What does the 14th Amendment really say? And why are the rival camps counting on it to oust Trump from the presidential race? The 14th Amendment is a provision in the U.S. Constitution which was passed by the U.S. Congress on the 13th of June. This was in 1866. It was ratified in 1868. Section 3 of the amendment essentially states that no person will hold political office if the individual has engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Historically, this provision has rarely been used, and in the past, Confederate President Jefferson Davis and his Vice President Alexander Stephens have come under the scanner of this act. Rarely has the provision been invoked on charges of insurrection since then. But the amendment is again in focus after Trump tried to overturn his 2020 election defeat. Trump's public reaction allegedly resulted in his supporters storming Capitol Hill and rioting. And since then, Democrats and other rival camps have been trying to use a 19th century law to oust the Republican frontrunner from the 2024 presidential race. While some states might be able to bar the presidential hopeful, doubts still prevail over a pan-U.S. ouster. And with me on the broadcast this minute is Adele Nazarian, a media fellow, Gold Institute for International Strategy. Thanks very much for being here. How likely is it that Donald Trump will actually be disqualified from that race? What is your assessment of what has been said so far?
I think it's highly unlikely, frankly. And to be honest, increasingly, this is looking like a completely political attack. Colorado is a blue state, Democratic state. The other states you mentioned, Michigan and Minnesota, are also traditionally blue Democratic states. I believe Minnesota may be a swing state, although it veers more blue. And I think that this is all up for interpretation. Frankly, I think that barring an already elected and sitting president from being able to run for president again is frankly a censorship of free speech. There is no proof, there's no basis to say that he actually called for an insurrection on Capitol Hill on January 6th. The thing that's startling is there's video evidence, there's proof of Capitol Hill police officers actually opening the barricades and letting the protesters into the Capitol, actually aiding them with that. And yet this is being called an insurrection. I think that they had it out for him from the beginning. Again, I know that his vice president, Mike Pence, who's running for president, just resigned. I think he was very smart for doing that because, frankly, as much as he has, good morals and integrity in terms of abiding by the rule of law, he didn't stand a shot at becoming president. Frankly, I think that President Donald Trump, on the other hand, also has a very tight battle ahead, especially with everything that's been thrown at him.
Right. Quickly, let me just also ask you for your comment on how big of an electoral issue is this, according to you? To what extent does it really affect the voters' decision at this point?
It's a really big electoral issue. Thank you for that question. I think the Electoral College, as we saw in 2016, demonstrated how powerful they are in terms of determining the next commander-in-chief. Hillary Clinton had won the popular vote. That infamous Madam President cover on Time, I think it was, never came to fruition. And although she won the popular vote, it was ultimately the Electoral College that determined President Trump would become the next commander-in-chief. Of course, with Super Tuesday coming up on the primary March 5th, and knowing that every state does have a certain number of electorates that have to be obviously counted toward the final ballot count of who becomes the next commander-in-chief, it will be very damaging to President Trump if his name is not included on the Colorado, Michigan, Minnesota, and how many other blue states that are going to be attempting to remove him. Ultimately, though, I have to say, I don't think that this invoking the 14th Amendment to remove him from appearing on ballots throughout 50 states plus territories is going to succeed. If it does, I think it's a travesty.
All right. We're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for being here, Del.
Thank you.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.